Buddy, welcome to our live. Let me just get set up here, and it's black. About depression. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm just waving. Oh, geez. Khalil, send me a request, and I will just pinning the thing right now. Yes, I'm good. Thanks, Marvin, for joining. High frequency promotion. I'm just getting set up, and then we're going to get started. We're waiting for our special guest today. Today's a good topic. I want lots of black men. Invite your husbands, your boyfriends, your brothers, your uncles, everybody on tonight so that we can have this conversation and we can get it started. Hi, Khalil. Hi, Owen. Thanks for joining. And I'm going to send a request. Okay. Hi, Khalil. Give me a second, Khalil. I'm just notifying. You can also do the same. Just notify your people. Let them know that you're on. Can you hear me? Are you okay?
Yes, I can. I haven't used IG Live in a minute, so
I'll
I
give you some time to get reconnected,
yeah.
recalibrated.
Okay, so how do I notify people?
Do the arrow, see the arrow, click the arrow,
Mm-hmm.
and then,
By people. Okay, cool.
yeah, then send. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna go try to find my guest. Okay, I don't see that person on here. Hi, Erlina, Jam Jams, thanks for joining. Thanks everybody for joining. Uh, I'm going to continue to see if I can find my guest. Hi, Nat. Okay, let's see. I'm going to see if I can invite. Oh, Phil's not on here yet. Cleo, your camera looks a little bit blurry. Can you maybe wipe it off?
Okay, give me one sec. Hey, Kerry, how does it look now?
Okay, much better. That's much better. Thank you. I'm just trying to see if I can get my other guest. I can't. Cleo, is there a way that I can go into my. There's Phil. Thanks for the hearts, everybody. I'm just trying to get the guest notified, and then I will definitely start. Phil, can you, hi, Han. Phil, can you notify the other? I can't seem to find in my,
In the chat?
yeah, in my notification, in my send.
Yeah, hold on.
Is it sister? What's the name? Let me search it.
I gotta look up his name. Hold on.
I think he sent it to me in my DM, but I can't see my DMs. Hi, Terrence. Haven't seen you in a minute. How are you, T Penny? Thanks for joining. I'm so happy to see you. Pretty P, hi. Hi, Philippa. How are you? Nice to see you. I'm so glad you guys are all tuning in. This is so important. I am Martha. Thanks for joining. Are you finding it, Bill?
I
Because I'll
just
have
sent
to
him a
log.
message. Sorry?
Okay, because I'll have to log out and then log back in order to see it.
No, don't do that. I sent him a message.
You're thinging, Phil. You are tuning. You're tuning.
You need a stronger connection. Maybe
Yeah,
go
his
to
connect.
in your
You might
house.
have to move around in your house. Yours is good. Your Khalil, your connection's good. I'm
Awesome.
gonna put my do not disturb on so that I don't get. Again? Did we lose Phil? Okay. Well, let's see if he can. We'll send another invite. There he is. Okay. There is your. Oh, your connection looks better, Phil. It was doing that turny thing.
Yeah, I went on to WhatsApp to talk to a gentleman from Jamaica who's supposed to be jumping in with us. So
Okay.
I
What
gave
is
him
the? I can send it if you tell me what the handle is.
he didn't tell me the handle. He had his sister behind him,
Okay.
and they're
Okay.
jumping in shortly. So I got some
Okay.
folks up and I said, man, like David, go ahead and big up yourself. I see
Okay.
National Hoops. I see Martha out here. Got
So
some
what I
folks out
will
here.
do is I'll just start my little spiel and then I'll let you guys introduce and then when he jumps on we'll get him connected.
Oh,
So my name is Kerry Wilson. This is Convos with Kerry, and I started this as a part of my Surf Your Life, my business platform, to open it up for honest and open conversations in the Black community to have about taboo topics as well as topics that we think are needing to be discussed. And it's a safe space. All of this is a conversation. This is not a clinical, this is not a professional opinion or professional terms or anything. These are just conversations within the Black community so that we can open up the conversation and keep things going. So this is why I've started it. This is why I do it every Thursday at 9 p.m. Convos with Kerry. And today our topic is Black men's mental health. Let's talk about depression. Let's talk about seasonal depression. Let's talk about it all. Because if we do not open and hear our voices, especially Black men, because we know that we suffer internally instead of externally, we definitely are going to be losing more than we're gaining. So thank you for joining. If you have any questions, if you want to ask any questions during the conversation, please put it in the question box. It has a question mark on your right-hand side of your phone. Please do so, and we will get to your questions. I'm just going to open it up to you guys to introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about yourselves. Don't go into the topic yet. Just open it up with about yourselves and whatever else you want to talk about in regards to yourself, and then we'll continue on with the topic discussion. Who wants to go first?
gentleman's been logged on before me. Go ahead, bro.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you, Kerry, for this wonderful opportunity to come on board and have these conversations. And I think it's really important or needed because a lot of men don't have the platform to really share and have a voice and express themselves. And I think this is going to be therapeutic and a way that we heal. People hear other Black men similar challenges or depression, or anxiety, through some struggles, right? It gives us hope that, hey, we're in the same boat, but we can work on this together. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to pour into everyone. So my name is Khalil Duravo. I'm a mental wellness coach and author. I started a company called Khalil Duravo Enterprise where I help the young people reduce anxiety and stress. They can prevent the feeling of depression through mental wellness workshops. And I wrote a book called Change Starts in the Mind, How to Create the Mindset You Need. So I believe success is not a secret, it's mindset.
Leo, you're kind of chipping in and out, chipping a little bit in and out. Like most of it is good, and then there's a little bit of a chip. So can you just go over it again a little bit, just the end part?
Okay, awesome. So the last part I said, I wrote a book, so I'm a self-published author called Change Starts in the Mind, How to Create the Mindset You Need for Success. So I believe success is not a secret, it's actually a mindset.
Thank you, thank you. So, Phil, do you want to go next? Who wants to go next? Introduce your name and just tell me a little bit about yourself before we start our conversation.
I'm gonna let my superstar guest go last. I want to speak about me a little briefly, and I'm gonna edify my colleague from Jamaica. So my name is Phil Edwards. Wow, what do I do in regards to the world of mental health? I've been working with youth, children, adults for quite some time. A lot of the approaches I've taken has been from the use of sports and recreational activity. So I find that by getting the body involved, I'm going to go too much into the field, but yeah, we fix the body and it helps to complement the mind. And so I've used that physical approach through recreation. In my recreational activity, I happen to meet this colleague of mine who's on the chat with us right now, Jamaican national team player. He's still active in the game of basketball today. Has done many things on and off the court. I'm going to introduce Mr. Linford Shooty Brown. Linford, take it away.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me. I'm Linford Brown, physical education teacher and lecturer. I also teach a little personal development here and there, and I'm just excited to be here tonight with you.
Thank you all the way from Jamaica. Thank you, Linford, for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And
No
I
problem.
literally, I have to hail these Black men because I literally called them last minute and they were able to help me and get it together and be here. So we really want to appreciate their time and their efforts and ask your questions because you have their attention. And also engage in the conversation because it is for you. We're doing this. I'm doing this to help us help ourselves. My business is for you, by what is it? FUBU, for you, by you. Okay. So definitely please engage in the conversation. So guys, I just want us to talk about what my topic was kind of like talking about depression, seasonal depression, and how do Black men maneuver that? How do we see our Black boys maneuvering it? What are some things? I know you guys both said that health and physical activity is also a good way. But what do you think when I say the word depression, what do you think it looks like?
Um, I'd I'd say it looks dark, so to speak, right? Where you become reserved, and sometimes you become violent because there's no outlet for you to express yourself, so you becomes reserved and short towards persons, short towards everyone else. You're always snapping, you're bitter, you're angry. So that is the oftentimes the form it comes out in my opinion.
I can go next. So when I think about depression, right, I also have to think about anxiety because they usually, go hand in hand and they usually in the same conversation. So when I think of depression, I think of, lack of motivation. I see a lot of sadness or isolation, overthinking, very stressed, right? Depression is when people worry about what happened in the past. So it could be a shortcoming, setback, failures. You're stuck in the past. And most of the times when you're depressed, you worry about the things that you don't have. So I think depression shows up heavily in our communities because most of the times, if you raise in an impoverished neighborhood or you racialized community, you face a lot of challenges and barriers, right? So you can find yourself at moments and times where you feel just paralyzed and you don't want to do anything, right? So for me, when I feel depressed, right, I'm there on my bed and I'm feeling stuck, like, nothing's moving, nothing's going on, and I'm just swamped with my thoughts, right? And usually they're negative thoughts. Statistics show that we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. So there has to be a programming. So one tip that I do to overcome depression is
Want to hold that, Khalil?
Oh,
Khalil, hold that, and we'll go to tips after
okay, cool.
we kind of get the definition of depression from everybody. But
Yeah,
that's good, good.
if I could jump in real quick,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we're not going with the clinical textbook definition here, because
No, I want it to be what you
authentic,
see,
yeah,
what
yeah,
you
totally.
feel. Yeah.
So I'm going to say that depression is, it's not absolute, meaning that what might depress someone may not depress another person. And I had
Different
to learn this
forms.
because I work with people who have told me that they're depressed, and I would look at them and I'd say, "But you don't look depressed." And I was in my earlier stages, of course, right? Because you really can't see what it may look like. And two people, you could even be a twin with somebody going through the same exact lifestyle, and what may impact person A and have them perhaps there could be in the depression, and person B could have same parents, same household, same resources, everything, and could be total chill, total fine. So it's very unique. Um, and it's a very sensitive topic, and a lot of it comes from, well, do I even have the right resources and outlets to even identify that this is depression? Because culturally, and I'm going to speak to my Jamaican background, sometimes we just say, I saw it go, and we just learn to roll through the punches versus identifying, whoa, that person or I'm feeling depressed, right? So it's going to be different ages, different stages of your life, and do I even have the permission to be saying that I'm depressed?
I like
Can
that.
I
Yeah.
can I can I jump in
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
minute?
Go ahead. That's your
Kelly
turn.
Kelly Kelly, that's his name, right?
Yes.
Carrie. Oh,
Kelly?
well,
No,
Khalil. Oh, Khalil.
Khalil. Yeah.
Two
Okay.
Ks.
So
That's why
Khalil,
2 Ks.
right. So earlier Khalil alluded to your socioeconomic background, which you were brought up in as a reason for being depressed. But not in every situation. I mean, I think it more has to do with, as what Phil said, how we were nurtured, right? To just, oh, you're a man, just tough it up and suck it up and keep moving, as opposed to paying attention to what the person is saying, and that could be verbally or by your body language. So pay attention to what is how we were nurtured. So we need to nurture guys into our males into thinking that it's okay for you to express yourself when you're going through a situation. And express yourself meaning that you should talk about it. Feel open, feel free to come to your mom, your dad, your friend, and say, "Hey, this is bothering me. This is a situation I have. What do you think?" You know?
Yeah, I think all of it. I think it's very difficult for us to, as Black, well, I'm speaking for Black women, for us to ask for help because we have the strong Black woman label, and some of us wear it with a badge of honor, and some of us don't, and it's very difficult to ask. So this is why when I say that depression looks differently in everybody, and it's different in men, it's different in women, it's different in children. We have to be aware of what the signs are, because like Phil says, you can't sometimes see it on somebody. And I think we also too, which we're going to go to, is tips. So asking questions like, how are you? And really listening and hearing what people are saying instead of just asking them for the sake of asking, but really hearing what they're saying and tackling it then, instead of just saying, how are you? Oh, and just hearing a quick answer and keeping it moving, but to really say, what are you feeling today? So change the questions, change up the way that we approach people when we really want to help, not when we are not genuinely wanting to support, but when we are really wanting to. So I think what we're all saying, the signs that we're all saying is that we see is that it looks like sadness. It looks like less loss of motivation. It looks like I think there was something that Khalil said I wanted to touch upon. I need to have a book and write down. But more so, Khalil, so when you're stuck and you feel like you can't move from from whatever you're doing or wherever you are in life, or you feel bad, like anxiety about you're thinking 50 minutes. Now, Khalil, I know you said that you think that depression is living in the past, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So for me now, I feel the depression for women and mothers is thinking about too much of the future and this and overthinking and overwhelming and getting, instead of, and
I
thinking about the past and thinking about what's happening now and thinking about what your child or your children's going to go. So I think for women and mothers, when depression comes into place, it's a lot to do with trying to navigate present, past, and future, so definitely I think that's, and maybe that's for men, is more sitting and reliving the past and going over, well, I could have done differently, or one would have loved to do this differently. But so let's go into now some tips or some tools, or what you guys do when you do, or if you're working with somebody, or if you're feeling like you're starting to get overwhelmed, anxiety, or depression. Because I know we'll touch a little bit upon seasonal depression as well.
Can I just touch base on the comment? There's people making some comments in the chat, just so
Oh,
we
I
don't.
can't even see.
Okay, it's okay. So frequency, man like Christopher, big up yourself.
So,
Made mention that depression is no movement, bottle, angry, darkness, isolation.
Okay.
Couple of other stats. Somebody else see what no one else said. Some folks want to say make sure this is going to be recorded so they can review it. So Kerry,
Yes.
you'll post it again later.
Yes, I will.
I'm
It
just
will
trying to
be
see
up after this.
yeah. So I just
So
just
yeah, if
okay.
you in the chat have any things that you want to add to it, the conversation, then put them in. Please, again, put it in the question box if you have any questions directly, specifically. But if you want to add to the chat, please do so. Show us some love by putting up some hearts as we continue on the conversation. So go ahead, gentlemen. I just want you guys to talk a little bit more about seasonal. Do you know anything about seasonal depression? Have you heard about it? Have you seen it? And what kind of things do you do for depression overall?
Okay. I can jump in. So, one of my mentors said that when you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things change. And I like to say one of the things that has really worked for me when I'm feeling depressed, and I tied it to depression is when you worry about things that happened in the past, right? I usually have a mindset of gratitude, the attitude of gratitude. I believe depression and gratitude can't live in the same. You can't have two feelings or emotion happening at the same time. You have to choose one over the other. So I have that mindset of gratitude where I think about the things that are working in my life, things that are going great, things that are going good, right? And I realize that depression, that feeling, really goes away because I'm coming from a spirit where, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling joyful. I understand that everything happens for a reason. I have what I have because I'm meant to have it. And a lot of times the little things, right, that are happening, that are going good, we need to be grateful for, right? We don't have to have the big house. We don't have to have the nicest car to be grateful. We can be grateful just for being alive, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, having a place to stay. So I think that's super important. I also think a huge problem is that we're not practicing self-care. So we wait till the problem happens, right? And then we're trying to figure out strategy or a coping tool in order to, deal with the situation. And I say practice self-care, be proactive, be preventive. So what are the things that you can do every single day to take care of your mental, your physical, your emotional, and spiritual well-being? What are those things that you can do every single day? So I say create a morning routine. When you wake up, invest in yourself. You are the greatest investment. Wake up, meditate. Wake up, pray if you're a believer. Wake up, exercise. Wake up, drink lots of water. Eat your breakfast. Do things that are going to add to your emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. So I say self-care is one of the best things that you can do in order to overcome the feeling of depression.
Okay. I love what was shared. I'm going to speak from I because I don't want to seem as if I'm combating, but I know that from myself, and I speak for a lot of people when I say this. We are social beings, right? And like anything in life, if we could snap our fingers and fix it, right? It's the same thing for weight loss. It's the same thing for any type of a habit. Habits are formed, and they're often best formed by our circle. I'm a firm believer. A perfect example. When I used to work with youth in the prisons, and especially adults in prison, what do you do when someone is in the worst behavior? They put them in isolation, right? So in the prison system, they know that they do that deliberately because they know that's how they mentally. I don't want to swear on your life, Kerry. That's how they mentally fuck you. Okay. So from a depression perspective, that loneliness, it would be nice if we can just dig ourselves out and just say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna see the world." Because I come from a lens that is my perspective, but I've never faced depression. So oftentimes I found it's easier for me to tell people all that you said, my brother, because I'm already living that. And so I often found that I have to check myself because I'm often coming along with Phil so happy go lucky, he's so optimistic, he's so and people are like, you've never had a bad day in your life. So I've had bad days, but I've never faced depression. Right. So when someone's in that space, it could be the greatest book, it could be the greatest online video, it could be the greatest help. They really need that support to get them out of that rut. If it could be done by yourself, like I said, and this is what my experiences have been. So my biggest suggestion has always been be present. I may not have all the answers, but I know that my energy, and I like what you said, my brother, that energy of someone being around that is also lifting up. One of the mistakes I do find is that when folks are depressed, they're often in an environment with other people who are depressed. And so everyone's using the, oh, F my life mentality. Life sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And it's almost that energy now, that victimology that turns into, yeah, ain't none of us going to do nothing better about this. So whether we want to choose to drink it away, smoke it away, sleep it away, cry it away, whatever, nothing progressive. And I'm not saying nothing's wrong with drinking and smoking, but when you're already in a rut and then you're turning to substances, it's not helping. It's a numbing. I won't speak too long because I'm sure that Shruti has something to say, but I do know that one of the mistakes I've seen people make is think that let's snap my finger because the sun comes up tomorrow. Maybe my energy will pick up tomorrow as well. It's really a progress and it takes a lot of work. It takes literally constant presence versus just, all right, I saw you 2 weeks ago and I saw you again, I'll see you again in 2 weeks type of thing. Um, the other thing, last point also, sorry, there's a lot of tips out there that have come from our oppressors, right? I don't like to go by what's also out there because that's the same people that put us in depression. So there's a lot of gifts that we have culturally that we have amongst us that we actually don't turn to because we're in a paradigm where a lot of things are coming clinically, and those clinicals and those doctors and those folks don't know the lifestyle that you and I may have lived, right? Have seen the situation that we've grown up in. And so it's almost like somebody who has no connection to us spiritually, culturally, whatever, is making these a checkbox saying, okay, this is what you need to do and this is what you need to subscribe to. And I can't rock with that. But I'm going to stop right there.
All right, but Phil, you mentioned it a little bit a while ago. For me, it's having people around you because some of the wealthiest persons and some of the poorest persons, we still do go through suffer from depression, right? But it's having the right support, as I said, the foundation around you. And I've had a personal experience where I was in New York and I saw my one of my older sisters being depressed. And as early as the morning, she was on the phone with her friend, and her friend was actually feeding her that depression. So instead of telling her, stop what you're doing, try this, try that, look at what you did, look at what you said, she was always supporting her, and I realized that it was sinking my sister deeper into depression, right? Now, another thing we need to do is take some accountability for what's happening in our lives. Some of the depression that we go through is we blame others or it's your fault. It's what did I do wrong? What did I not do? So some sort of assessment and accountability to see what the situation is. I tell my students that they should try to have an out of body experience where you remove yourself from the situation, just step back and look at what's happening. What did I do? What should I have done? What the person said, did I have to react to it that way? So just take yourself, stop for a minute, stop whatever you're doing, stop, just sit down, grab a drink, just sit down, not no alcohol, a light drink, a fruit juice or something, and just look at what's happening. Just take a look, stop, because you have too many things, too many outside factors that are influencing us nowadays, and we keep leaning on this, leaning on that, social media, TV. You know, just stop, look at what you're doing, take responsibility for what you're doing, and find someone that is telling you that, listen, what you did was wrong, what you said was wrong, and then have some sense of accountability and move on.
I'm here listening. I'm here taking it in because I really want you guys as men to speak to men and speak to Black men out there. So no, say I'm listening and I'm involved and engaged, but I
Mhm.
really want the floor to be you guys. So continue the conversation. I'm going to go through a few of the questions
There's a lot in the chat.
and a few of
The
the
chat's getting
comments.
live.
The
Mm.
chat getting things. So I saw a great question that I saw in the chat. So I'm going to go through a few of the chats and then you guys can just jump in with anything. Fancy says, I needed to hear this. I'm so glad that you joined, Fancy. There was a question here. Am I missing it? Okay, so
I
I
think one
see
of the question was, is it
not everyone.
hereditary? That was a deep question. Is depression hereditary? That was a
Go
nice
ahead,
question.
you guys tackle that, and then I'll yeah tackle that. Go ahead. What do you think?
I could speak on that. I was teaching it today. I would say 100% yes, right? It can be passed on genetically, right? Think about intergenerational trauma, right? Our ancestors, it could be our grandparents. If they've dealt with bipolar or schizophrenia, guess what? We can get it too. So it definitely could be passed on genetically. You know, and we see in our community, certain family members have it, and this is why you're like, yo, does you do background checks, you're like, yo, does the family have, a common history of dealing with this type of mental illness, right? So definitely genetically. I also want to share it can also be passed on psychologically, right? If you been neglected, you've been mentally, physically, emotionally abused, listen, it could be passed on psychologically. Also biologically. So this is through chemical imbalances. So our brains have cells and nervous systems, and anytime something goes out of whack, we have 100 like millions of nervous system in our brain. Anything goes out of whack, there's a chemical imbalance and things don't function normal. It can happen through that. And then also environment, right? You grow up in a neighborhood, you see a lot of shootings, you see a lot of killings, especially when you're in a hood. Guess what? It's through your environment. So those are the four ways that you can be dealing with a mental health or a cause of a mental illness.
But
I see
Khalil,
here before you start, Shudi, I just want to touch upon mine's like she's a counselor says that's true. However, there is a big difference between sadness and depression. I would ask them to describe how they're feeling. Cece says investing in counseling is key. Finding the right match is also key. The biggest thing is just listen. And there was a big long one that I missed it. Okay, go ahead, Shruti.
Khalil, I want to say something to you. Are we differentiating or are we intertwining depression with mental health?
Because depression is considered mental health, it's under the
Yeah.
term of mental health.
It's a
That's the
form. Yes,
reason
it's
why
a form, right?
Mm-hmm.
it's a
But
form of mental health.
It is.
Yes.
yes, but
So that is why.
depression,
But we're not being technical tonight.
right?
We're
Mm-hmm.
We're just talking tonight about
But
it. But
Khalil,
yes, it is.
depression, amongst all those things that you've mentioned, depression could also be a mindset. Because this is how my uncles dealt with whatever situations we were going through. And I grew up seeing this. So I adapted this kind of behavior, this kind of mindset, this mentality. And it now passes on to my child instead of breaking that cycle, you
Do
know?
you want to differentiate between maybe that being sounding like depression and sadness? Do you think that there's a difference? And then there's also clinical depression. So there's sadness, depression, and then clinical depression. So
But maybe it's along the lines of sadness.
Yeah, it could be sad. And I want
Yes,
to get out there. You could be depressed, right? Or you can have the feelings of depression, or it could be a disorder, right? Just because you feel depressed doesn't mean it's a disorder. Just because you're anxious doesn't mean it's a disorder. It's different.
right,
It's a disorder when you cannot manage your daily activities,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
it becomes a mental health
It,
when that happens.
when you
So
need,
if you're sad every day, or you're a sad person, or something makes you sad, and you're sad, let's say you're grieving. And it takes grieving. Remember, grieving does not give you it's not a list. It's not a time frame. It's not a, so you wouldn't be considered a mental health, because if you're still continuing to do your daily things, if you are able to have different levels of good days and not so good days, then that wouldn't be considered. But when it's affecting your life and your daily being and your daily routine and your daily thing, that is when it becomes clinical. That is when it becomes depression. And when it becomes clinical now is when you need medication. And you need, because it is affecting it totally. Like, you are not able to leave the bed. You are not able to do any daily task. Like, you are not able to cope. So that's when it becomes clinically depressed. So there's levels, and that's where we are trying to sort of break down is for men, how do you really, when there's levels to things, so how do you know if your friend is sad, depressed, or if you are just sad or depressed, or when it comes to the point where you're just like, I think you need to go get some medication. You know what I mean? Or because we know we don't like medication in the Black community. We don't like to take medication unless we have to. And, you know, we don't trust medication on a full-term basis, especially with something that we're thinking is, get over it. You know, what's the problem? Like, do this, as Cleo says, just be grateful that you're alive. Just be, you know, happy that you have all these things, because the poor, it's not just because it's your economics doesn't mean that rich people don't get depressed, or rich people aren't clinically depressed, or rich people aren't sad, or rich people don't have problems. So it's not necessarily, this disorder is not just for so that's what I really want us to focus on and be clear about. It looks different in everyone. Oh, I'm missing a lot of comments. So sorry, guys. Let me go back and then get to you so I don't miss everybody. So depression is a mood disorder. So the mood and how to respond to feelings is a learned behavior. I think one of the speakers mentioned that your environment can also cause depression. Yes. Athena says the biggest thing is to bring awareness and remove from the social stigma of not talking about it. This is why we're doing these conversations. There is difference in definition of hereditary versus genetic. Okay, mine's like, if you want to touch upon that, feel free. Jay says define clinical depression. Yep, Jay, we can define that in a second. Khalil, you could take that away if you would like. Stigma affects getting help. So I have two questions here. How do you handle friends and family who dismiss your depression and the subject of mental health as a whole? Who wants to take that first? Phil, let's you go first.
No, totally. I think a lot of that question has to do with the age of the individual, right? Because clearly, if you're a dependent and you are living with folks you literally depend on for your entire survival, it's going to be a lot more difficult than if you're at the age where you could say, you know what, I'm choosing to no longer live here, or I'm independent. The challenge that I've seen is for someone, for example, who's a teenager, who still requires their parents or their caregivers to provide food, shelter, and everything else. And then on top of it is being told things such as, oh, when I was your age, or you're so lazy. Like, these are the things that are just, it's an age gap, it's a generation gap, and it's a lack of understanding for what a current person is going through. And I'm not saying that an adult is in the same position as a child or a teenager, but when children, if the person asking this question, if you're dealing with a teenager or a child, I feel it's a different answer than for an adult, because an adult, once again, there's different resources, and they have access to different things that they can perhaps speak on their own behalf of. Oftentimes, when a child or an adolescent is in that seeking stage, they're looking for mentorship. They're looking for someone to say, I don't know what's going on. There's so many things happening in adolescence, going through bodily changes, social changes. I don't even know what's going on with this world. And now I have these other feelings of depression. So it's a real challenge at that stage. And once again, I'm not saying it's not a challenge in adulthood, but the challenges and the changes in the body, the changes in the environment that's taking place in teenage and adolescent years, it's even more of a struggle.
Let me ask the question. Let me repeat the question again, too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil. I agree. How do you handle friends and family who dismiss your depression and the subject of mental health as a whole?
Okay, so to re-answer that, you're going to need a better circle, first off. Because if I'm coming, no matter what the situation in life, if I'm coming to you with it, and you're going to come with that stop chat foolishness, which is a generational thing that often happened in previous generations. right? I'm very grateful that this generation is less likely to say those things. But how do you handle if your support is not giving you support? You need to find new support. It sounds like a cliche phrase, but that's exactly what needs to happen. If I'm coming to my support system and my support system does not support or even endorse this conversation, I need to find support somewhere else.
But not only that, Phil, not only that, sometimes you go to your support system, and you realize that you're not. All right, let's say, for example, I'm the support system for you, Phil, right? And you come to me with whatever problem you're having. And every time I tell you the solution, the ways, the means to apprehend whatever problem you're going through, you revert to doing what you wanted to do. Then clearly you're telling me that you're not willing to try and make things better. You, the person who's depressed, has to be um, open to corrections, open to suggestions to move forward. And that's the problem we're having, right? I've had friends who they'll come to me with whatever situation, but I realize that this friend doesn't really want to improve his situation or fix the problem. He just want to talk, right? So we have to be careful not to become overbearing for these persons. But I mean, go to your support. What fine? But you have to listen to what these persons are saying to you. Listen to the suggestions, the points that they're giving you to help you to be better. What do you think, Khalil?
I agree with both of
Hello?
you. I would add to. I would with both of you for sure.
There's another. Okay, there's another question. Eating a good meal with good water intake, I feel, can change one mood from bad to great. I don't know if it's that
For
simple,
sure.
but what do you guys
And
think?
Oh,
I would also
I,
add to that. I think those are like the basic. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
the
Did someone want to
basic
go?
things.
Go ahead.
The basic
no, go
things.
ahead, Khalil.
Go,
Go ahead,
go, no,
finish.
go, Khalil,
Go ahead.
go. Can you hear me, Khalil? Go. You're talking?
He's not talking, but um,
I feel
All
like
right.
there's a cutout.
I could.
Is that on my?
I think it's you. I can't. It's you. Okay, go ahead.
Let me
Go
see.
ahead, Shuti, until Khalil
Am I?
clears it up.
All right. So for me, whenever I'm stressed or depressed, I usually eat. But there's a catch to that. I have basketball, right?
Mhm.
So I can go to the court and I work that food off, right? There are two types of stresses: EU stress or eustress, and bad stress, which is the mental illness that we're talking about. I recommend persons to find something that will impact the body with a good stress. Gym, basketball, go for a walk, jog, skip, but some physical activities that will take your mind from your depression, get you exhausted, and make you want to sleep. Even if it is momentarily, that is good for the body. Have your mind relaxing and your body relaxing. That's good for the body too.
Khalil, are you able to speak now?
Yes, I am. So, what was the question?
The question was, eating a good meal with good water intake, I feel, can change one mood from bad to great. That's frequency promotions. He said that.
100%. So I would add to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think your greatest wealth is your health, and your body is a temple, right? And what you are what you eat. So it's important to be, putting nutritious food and nourish your body because it will dictate your mood. It would definitely dictate how you feel. Think about it. When you wake up in the morning, you have a busy day, you go do stuff, right? Or if you're in school, right, and you're trying to learn, what is the only thing you're thinking about? The only thing you're thinking about is eating. The only thing you're thinking about
Mm-hmm.
food, right? And if you're only thinking about food, you can't focus on the important things, right? Like learning, trying to get things done, right? So I think it's important for you to put food in your body and eat healthy. So like your parents would say, eat your fruits, eat your veggies. I think hydration, our body needs water. Our body is 80% water. So we need to make sure that we're hydrating, to make sure that we're, active and we can utilize that as energy. I would say rest. I think you said it. You need to take breaks. Sometimes we're on go mode. We're in a hustle and bustle. We're working and we're stressing ourselves. And we don't take the time to say, let me step away and let me tackle this later. Let me give myself to time to just relax and calm down. I think rest, getting optimum sleep. So going to bed early, getting the amount of rest you need, because everyone's body clock is different. Some people need 8 hours, some people need 6 hours, right? So you get the rest you need. So when you wake up in the morning, you can function. You can think properly. You can make logical and proper decisions, right? So I think there's many different things that you can do, but I think those are just the basic, because when you think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, we need the water, we need the food, we need the clothing, we need to be warm, we need to make sure we're practicing good hygiene. So just the basic stuff. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. So there's some comments here. Stopped. I think people are talking about the first question in regards to if your support system is not helping. So Anitha says, Athena says, remove those friends. Davy says, surrounding ourselves with positive people, do things that make ourselves happy. Also, it's important to reach out to our loved ones and show them love. Stop talking to them. Seek help from another family member, school, etc. We have to also be patient with these family members and friends as well. And there's a few more. Am I missing anything, Phil? You see anything on your end?
I think you're pretty caught up. I think you're pretty caught up.
Okay. And I think there's another question that just my brother Khalil. Somebody's saying hi, Khalil. And there's another question. I think we talked about, is depression hereditary? So I think somebody really wants to hear that. I think both myself and Khalil, and also mine, says, depression, I mean, we don't want to say depression, but we want to say mental health. It can be hereditary because of trauma. It could be your trauma could be passed down. And also, too, it's learned behavior. So if I see my mother or see my father, this is how they handle their stress by sleeping, removing themselves, being depressed or being sad, and consistently that's it, then I'm going to pick that up, whether I want to or not. Whether I pick it up in the full to the point where it's considered a clinical depression is different. So yes, I believe it can be hereditary, and it's a form of it. It could be in different forms. I hope we touched upon that. And please, again, do not, our word is not the only word. Please do your own research, and also check in with a counselor if you need to, or check in with me, myself, or Khalil, or Phil, and we will definitely refer you to the necessary person. Okay?
So I'm gonna throw a catch-22 at everyone slightly. Just pop
Okay.
something like that. Is it a choice? What
Okay,
choice? What rule? What rule? And I'm saying this with a smirk.
is what a choice?
Is depression a choice? And I'm saying that because there's been a lot of conversation. I'm gonna tag what Kanye said, for example, when he said, going back to what he earlier stated, that slavery was a choice. There's a lot of folks within our culture who feel, and I actually once carried this lens as well, especially my younger stages. When I was approached by people who said that they're depressed, I had that, box that off you, man, wants you, right? And I would actually use this phrase. I've used this phrase in the past. The sun rises every day. Why can't you? Like, from that lens of, and I would actually, I was wrong for this, and I'm going to apologize to the universe for saying this, but I would ask the person stuff like, well, what had you depressed? And I would actually, in my younger stages, of course, would go through a list of things, and I would almost do the opposite. You're ungrateful. Look how much things you have. And I would almost go from you're better than how much more people in the world, right? And that's what our culture has also taught us to do, because even with food growing up, our parents would say stuff like, look how you have food in the fridge. You have food in the cupboard. Look how much people don't have. And that's what we've been culturally taught to do to people.
Yeah.
Right? And so...
But Phil,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I have to cut in, Phil.
Yes.
Look at the context in which our parents, spoke to us, right? Sometimes some of the things that we are whining about, we really shouldn't, or we have no real cause to be whining about these things, So that is the context in which they're saying, oh, you're talking about, this and that. Look at what you have. Be grateful for what you have, right? But for me, my experience with depression is stress. And stress for me leads to depression. What causes my stress? What causes me to stress? How do I handle my stressful situations? That's the problem. So if I can realize what are my stress points, what causes me to stress, then I can tackle those and not lead to depression. Because if I allow these whatever these factors to be that cause me to be stressed, if I can tackle them, then I wouldn't have depression. That's for me personally. So I try to see what's happening, what's causing me the stress, get at them, move it out of the way, and keep moving. That is how I see it.
Right.
So,
And
yeah, go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
the reason why I bring this is, and I think we need to get very, sometimes we have act like there's an elephant in the room. And I'm going to pretend there's no elephant in the room here. So I can only speak from I. I will not address no other person in this world at this very moment but myself. But I've gone through a lot in life. And whether it be a job loss, relationship loss, death of a friend, death of whatever, like a lot of the things that, you know, we talked about this word stress. And every day I repeat this to myself, and I say this over and over again. I am so grateful for my mental faculties because I don't know what it feels like to one day get up and feel like I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what that feels like. I can't subscribe to it. I don't know what it feels like. And so I can support others, but I've never been hit and I've lost a lot. I've gone through a lot. And that's why I like what you said earlier, Shruti, where there's even rich people who have all the money in the world, but they're still depressed. I give thanks every day because I don't know what that feels like. Whether I lost every dollar, whether I lose every job, every gal, every whatever, I have never woken up with a, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't get
Okay.
out of my bed. I don't want to bathe. I don't want to eat. I don't know that feeling, nor do I wish it on anyone.
You're
And
not
so,
you're not
sorry?
being overwhelmed. You're not being overwhelmed.
It could be. Once again, this is that elephant in the room. How does it take place? Is it because we've lost things, or is it just a mindset? Like this is where I'm saying this elephant in the room here, because okay, I can go biblically for a second, and I don't even subscribe to that one more time. But we've seen stories in the Bible where, for example, Job has lost everything, right? And I use that as an example because sometimes people think that depression comes from I lost this, nothing's going good, I have no money, but I live in the hood, like whatever it might be, and now I'm feeling depressed. And so I want to ask that question was, is it an onset, meaning now, what choice is there in this? Because that's the question. You know, if we're going to dig and have this convo, right? I like to wordplay sometimes, but in the same sense, I can only speak from I. And I've never got up a single day that says, I don't wish to be here anymore. So I can't identify with that feeling. That is my struggle right now. I've helped others in that position, but I've never, ever had that thought of taking my life, taking other people's lives. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. So, gentlemen, take it away, man.
Yeah. Can I share my perspective? So everything that you named, brother, like I've had that lived experience. I've felt all those, you know, emotions and feelings, right? I've been through all of that, right? So I'm only speaking from experience. To answer your question, is it a choice? I would say yes and no. So you're probably wondering like what I mean by that. I say, you know, I talked about it earlier. We can feel depressed, right? And I believe that, you know, your thoughts controls your feelings controls your actions, and your actions controls your results. So I believe, you know, if we're stressed out, right, we can change how we feel, right, about a situation, right? If we are depressed, we can do certain things to reduce the stress so we don't feel depressed, right? But if it's a disorder, if it's severe, if it's something that we cannot control, then I don't feel like it's a choice, right? Because this happens, you know, outside of your control. It's something that's happening without you. Whether you try to choose a different thought, a different perspective, you can't, right? It's become something that has, you know, caused you to unable to function normally. So I say yes and no. And that's my opinion. And I spoke to my therapist, and, you know, I was shocked at his answer when he said, yo, if you identify as being depressed, that's what you said. If you identify as it, guess what? You will be depressed. So you really want to separate it. Just because you feel depressed doesn't mean you are depression, right? And that's what many people do. They think they are depression, but it's separate from you, right? It's something it's a feeling outside of you, unless it's a disorder, which changes the whole game.
Okay, so there's some comments here I want to go to before we continue. No, it's not a choice. Kanye's a fool. Is it a choice to not cope the same way as others? That's at you, Phil. Minnie Sun says it depends. Depression can be a choice depending on circumstances. You surround yourself around or out yourself in certain situations. Some are agreeing. There's also did our parents even know better to have those in-depth conversations though? It all comes down to stress management and overthinking. Yes, facts, broski. So some people are agreeing that it's choice. Some people are saying that, Phil's kind of being devil's advocate in a sense, which is fine. And others are saying that it's not as easy as we kind of think, not as easy as just changing our surroundings or changing our thought. I do have a question here that says something about that. So frequency promotion says this: they say milk does a body good until they took it off the food guide. Sleep is important times 100%. He also says, to be honest, leaving the four corner of your area and travel is ideal to release stress and depression. Now that's also again, these are easier said than done things, because I don't know if someone is in the heart of depression or if they feel depressed or even if they're overly sad, if being able to now book a flight, pick a place, go is going to be conducive. So it's definitely, like Khalil said, it's a process, and I think we have to definitely be able to break down our thought process. And like Phil said, I really appreciate that, Phil, and I want to touch upon that, is what he thought as a young person to what he now thinks of the word depression, about the word mental health, now as a older adult who has been dealing with it for many moons, in his surroundings, working with them and in depth with working with youth and families. So I definitely like that. That's what we want to do, is break down the stigmas and the negative thoughts of how we look at mental health, how we use the word. And I don't want people to feel or think that just because we are depressed, just because we do have a mental health, that it's needing to be looked at in a negative light. And I think that's also why I want to continue to have these conversations, because I think, and you tell me, black men, do you go around, and Phil, you may not, but I want you to take it on the sense of what you've been dealing with or what you've known, is would you go out and tell your friend that you're feeling sad or you're feeling depressed, or asking your friend for help, or going into the mandem, the barber shop, when you're having your discussion and saying, I didn't bathe today, or I didn't bathe for a week because I really could not do it. Are you having these conversations? I'm taking it away. I'm letting you guys. Please answer me honestly, honestly. I want to hear the honest truth.
I would like to go first. That is, for me, that is how I do it. That is how I do it. My father, who was a police officer, he passed on a few years ago, right? And when I grew up, I usually come home seeing him after basketball practice. I would come home and I would ask him, how was his day? How was work? Did you eat throughout the day? Whatever. And my dad said to me that I'm the only one that asked him that. My mom didn't ask him that question. My sisters didn't ask him that question. And that was important, right? Because sometimes we see our men as, oh, you're the breadwinner, you're strong, My dad had hypertension for 2 years and no one in the house knew until he got a stroke, right? So for me, whenever if you did something or said something that offended me, I'm going to let you know. I disliked what you said, and I didn't appreciate what you said, right? If I'm happy with something, I'll let you know. If I dislike something, I'll let you know. Whatever I'm going through, I talk about it, because I won't die from stress. I tell you that. It has to be basketball or something else, but it won't be stress. So I think men should be comfortable enough to talk to someone, to go to a friend. I'll go to my friends. I'll call them up and say, listen, this is a situation. What do you think? How do you think I should have reacted? Do you think I should do this? And not only that, as I mentioned before, whatever the instructions are, I'd follow them. I've Phil and I have had numerous conversations about how to go about stuff, and I listen. So that is what you have to do. You have to reach out for help and then accept that help and follow. Put it into practice.
I think that's great for you, and that's how you tackle it. But what I'm asking per se is, in your circle of men, whether it be father, uncle, brothers, sons, in your circles, in the people that you know, are you seeing a lot of them coming to you and or coming not even to you, but just being openly free to talk about their issues or I want to say mental health or anything? Are they being open is what I'm saying.
Yes, and sometimes we should try to go to them too. Sometimes we should try to reach out. You can see as educators and instructors, sometimes you see these persons acting a certain way out of the norm. Go to them. Feel free to go to them and say, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" You know. Sometimes you'll be so surprised to see how much they let out to you.
Okay, who else wants to answer?
I can't lie. I'm surrounded by like an abundance of brothers. My direct siblings, and then the male partner groups that I'm a part of. There's no shortage of if I have to have even a tearful moment. Like I've actually had a session last week where we sat down in the group and the whole room was crying because it required that, and
Man up,
that's a
Phil.
safe space.
Man up,
Yeah,
Phil.
man can ball. If man needs to cry, man needs to cry. Like some real stiff stuff went down that was like life changing. Um, I'll be the first to say that I think it's when, like you said, Shruti, that person who has no outlet and that stuff stays suppressed. That to me is way more scary than a man laughing in the room say, "Yo, Phil, I'll cry, yeah, cry," because that suppressed inside is like we're like a kettle, man, that is gonna boil up. We never know all these little molecules inside of us, what it takes for one to pop. All the atoms that make up our body, like just like a light bulb can expire, we're holding some stuff inside. And who knows what it takes for, once again, for something to just go poof, because guess what? It was overwhelmed. It didn't get the proper outlets. So my outlets, very similar to what Shruti said in basketball, I also do yoga quite often. I am making sure that my body is so, and then the food that I eat, the rest that I get, the things that I listen to music wise. Listen, I'm not going to be listening to a bunch of stuff that says, yo, shoot him up, kill him up, because I'm a firm believer also as the mind thinketh. There's so many things that I don't even want to watch movies that have to do with murdering people. There's just things that we see with our eyes that I feel that makes our whole temple and makes up who we are as a person. So, yeah, man, it's subliminal as well. So I will wake up every day and I totally give my gratitudes and my meditations towards how grateful I am that I am able to say these words. I am grateful for this day.
Leo, you say for the younger generation?
Yeah, for sure. I would, like to add to what you said previously. What you tune into, you turn into, and what entertains you, trains you. So you got to be careful what you put in your mind and, what you think about, because we become what we think about. So if you're listening to the game bang, guess what? You're going to become that, because that's what you're feeding your mind. Our mind is like a sponge. It soaks in everything that we put into it. So, you know, I would say before I didn't. And the reason why is because I think a big problem and issue in our communities is the lack of knowledge. What does the Bible say? My people are destroyed because the lack of knowledge. I was speaking to someone the other day. They're like, yo, back home in Africa, there's no one who's dealing with mental health. Everyone's happy. I said, that's a lie. It's just that they can't label it because they don't know what it is, right? Here, we're more advanced in our education and our knowledge, so now we can say label it. So I think many people don't even know. When I was younger, when I was a kid and I was dealing with anxiety and depression, I didn't even know what to label it was. I just knew there was something wrong with me, and because the stigma, bias, and shame around it, I didn't want people to think I was crazy, so I didn't want to go to my parents and talk about it, or to anybody, matter of fact, right? Because I didn't want them to label me. I didn't want them to stereotype me. So I suppressed it by abusing substances. You smoke, you drink, you turn up, right? And those, as you know, are toxic coping mechanisms, right? But now I'm advanced. I evolved as a person and I educated myself, right? I understand mental health. So now I know that you expressing yourself as a man doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. You being vulnerable doesn't make you weak, it actually makes you strong. And you're allowed to cry. You're allowed to, say how you feel. You are allowed to say you're not okay, because many people, society puts it on us that, you're soft, you're weak, you're not a man if you do these things, right? And I want to tell you, it's not about being man or woman, it's about being human. Right? It's about being human. So I want more men to go out and start talking, connecting with people, sharing how you feel. Let them know that, yo, I'm going through it, right? And what you realize that many people are going through a similar situation, and go out and ask for help. Listen, remove the pride and the ego. What does ego mean? It means edging God out, right? When you're thinking about you, you're being selfish. So you want to remove that pride and that ego and ask for help when you need it. Go seek professional help. Go talk to your brethren. Let them know you're not okay. You know what I'm saying? And because you don't know who can help you, who has the resources, who has the support. So I think we need to start, connecting with people and creating safe spaces so we can have these conversations. And also, if you feel like you can't trust people, go to the people that you know, you like, and you trust, and open up to them, right? And they'll be able to be ears to that will listen to what you have to say. They'll be able to support you in the best way they can. And if they can't, it's cool. Go seek professional help. It's there. And I love about charities and nonprofit organizations. They offer free services. I work in this field, so I know a lot of organizations are offering free therapy sessions, free counselors, free mentors. So tap into those resources, and I think it will really help.
I have a question. I have a question for both gentlemen. As a child, how do you know that you're depressed? As a child, how would you know that you're depressed?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone could answer? As one of the gentlemen?
As we think about that, let me just see what Frequency Promotion put. Life is not easy, but we need to preserve. That is our mindset. But go ahead, think. Who wants to tackle that?
I'm going to jump on that. I guess since we lost our brother for a second, I'm going to say that depending on where that child is living, okay, knowing that, for example, you're referring to, not referring to, you're living in Jamaica, I'm living here in Toronto, Canada. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of our systems are so open, and that word depression has been so used that it almost, somebody asked the question, what is the difference between sadness and depression? Because a child could be having a bad day, could be sad, and someone wants to all of a sudden tell that child, oh, you're depressed. Or some of the TV shows or the music, a lot of things that are happening, it's almost like it's asking you that question of, realistically, how does someone know? Even an adult, never mind just a child, right? So earlier we heard the term, someone can choose to identify as. And I think the scary part about the word depression is, if a child is being taught to identify as depressed, is that going to be that child's identity and how their ideology towards life becomes? Because there's so many things that help to form our ideology. I had a bad teacher. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I had a teacher in grade 3 that I did not like. And we've all had stories of a teacher that we didn't like, and some people, it turned them off education. So forever, I'm not going to like school because I had one quote unquote bad teacher. I want us to realize that when we're approaching these terms and we're approaching these situations, we have to be very mindful on how we box things. Right? There's a census that takes place every year, and they'll ask you, what gender are you? What financial category do you belong into? Like, we get boxed into these categories sometimes, and it almost goes now, okay, if a 7-year-old child is being boxed into as depressed, what does that look like? And I don't think we should be labeling children unless we also have the resources, because if I put you in a box and I don't have the resources to help you get out that box, what does that mean for you then?
True.
So that's a very good question you asked, Shruti, of, yes, does a child know? And who's identifying that? Is that the child identifying that? Is that the resources, the caring adults, and all the people around that child? It's a real slippery slope.
Well, I think
Okay.
we have to be careful how we quote unquote diagnose kids and children, adolescents. Because, all right, let me give you from my background. I never knew what depression is as a child, as a kid growing up, right? One, what my parents could afford, I accepted. I didn't want beyond what they could afford. And I knew the difference between my parents' status and my neighbor's status, right? Financial status, that is. So I would not go to my parents and ask them for X object if I knew they could not afford it because of what was going on in the house. Now, I had my father who I spoke with frequently. So my dad would explain to me what is happening. this is why we do this, this is why we did that, because right now this can't be done. And so I understood that. And also I was a part of so many clubs and activities. I didn't have time to be depressed. Now we as parents and guardians need to get these kids involved, get them from in front of these tablets and these TVs and these video games, let them go out and express themselves, meet people with different ideologies, different beliefs, different mindsets. And you see that what you are whining about, as Phil mentioned earlier with our moms and our dads, what you're really whining about, you have life better than a lot of persons, but you are just seeing life from your lens, and you're stuck in your little box because you're always at home. Go out, see other persons, see that you have 10 pairs of sneakers when someone else has none, right? Be a part of these teams. Join a football team, a basketball team, a debating society, whatever it is. Go out, experience life from different lenses. Don't just be cooped up in your house saying, oh, I'm depressed because my mom didn't give me a video game. You're not depressed. You're not depressed. You may be sad because you wanted that video game, right? But you're not depressed. I only experienced true depression when I became an adult. When I had school, my job, the bills, all of that was being overwhelming, and I couldn't find a way out immediately. So for a moment or momentarily, I would be depressed. But I try to as I mentioned before, what were my stressors? I try to attack them. So kids, I don't think we should be branding kids now as being depressed. And no, kids, the things that we have to deal with as adults, kids don't. Trust me, kids don't. They are free to go and roam. Let them be. Let them be.
Just
Can I add to that? Can I add to that? I'm going to add to what you said. And there is a difference between a child who is neglected. So when someone, I know already some people say, what do you mean kids can't be? No, kids can be neglected, and kids can be, could be all types of abuse and whatnot. But to say that a child is depressed, it's going to come, I believe, once again, we're not clinical here, but I believe children are neglected and abused. And there's a difference between depression. If you see those symptoms of that child that, sits in the corner and is constantly bawling or whatever looks like depression, where does that come from? Right.
I think frequency promotion says, I think as much as we are saying to seek help, we need to learn and treat ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to tap in here because I really, and I'm trying to not, because I want you men to really hear what you're saying. And I would really like you guys to rewatch this at a later point to just sort of hear what you're saying in regards to things. Because I think what we have to be clear about and understand is there is no diagnosis that a child can be labeled as. I mean, we can say and we could think, but there are things that are that children are going through that. Yes, we have bills, we have this and we have that, but children are also going through a lot of trauma right now as well. And they do, and I want to be clear, they do have reasons to be depressed. They do have their own valid concerns to be sad or overly sad. And I also want you guys to clearly state and clearly know is that even if you are in a sport, there is a lot of suicide in sports. So it's not, keeping busy is not always an out, or it's not always a way to subdue the depression or to tackle the depression. So I really want us to, as men, and as you guys are also dealing with young men and your own and your family members, that you're aware that busyness is not always a way. And even someone who says that, okay, join this team, or they may not be able to label it, but for us as the people that are outside of it, we should, even if we've never dealt with it in our lives, we should also be able to listen, to be able to observe, and to be able to help them come to those realizations.
Kerry.
Because it's not about labels. It's about getting the necessary supports and putting the necessary supports around them to support them in their journey. Just giving you that thought process.
I understand what you're saying.
You know me, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. We are all men, we are all adults here, and we all have biases that have been placed in our heads that we need to change up. And the biases could be one simple word. As you, Shuti, you're saying whining, or complaining. Change that word to I'm here to listen. Let me know what's going on with you. I'm not labeling, I'm not putting on to what your feelings are, but let's hear, let me talk to me is what you, I think, change those just little words, just little things that we say that are triggers to other people that we
And
may not know.
with that being said, Kerry, I want to address something you said. When Phil and I speak about joining sports or sporting activities, it's not just to keep busy. It's an outlet. It's an outlet. These kids learn how to express themselves. They find a place a place of belonging. They meet different people from different backgrounds, different races, different socioeconomic background, whatever it may be. There are so many avenues that they learn discipline. They learn how to express themselves. Coach, I don't think this is right. Whatever they go. So it's not just to be busy, but it helps to. It's
Positive mentors. You got
right.
a lot that comes with basketball or any sport or any club. So it's not
Right.
just a sport.
So from
And
my college,
I hear that, but you also have to tackle that as all those things can be in place, and there's still a high rate of suicide, and there's still a high rate of depression and mental health. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying when it comes to maybe now that you guys are doing, and you guys are the ones that are leading the teams, are doing that, you're changing the way that sports teams
Right.
are being. Yeah, I see
Right.
you.
Yeah.
That you're changing the way sports teams are being handled. But remember, that has not been a norm. So
So
what
what
you might be doing in your leagues and the way that you are generating it, it's not always the norm in everybody's others. So what I'm trying to say to put out there is to understand that it's not just about one thing. It's many different things and
right.
many different factors.
So one of the reasons why I'm a big advocate for any type of a group setting, especially when it's done the right way, whether it's sports, science club, you name it, the children, the youth, the adults, whoever's attending these groups, there's going to be some conversation naturally. And what always tends to happen is someone's going to say something like, yeah, my mom and my dad got in a fight last night, or I saw someone get murdered, or I got dumped by my girl. All the things that are happening, there's going to be these organic conversations that will take place. And the mentorship that comes from preventing someone from falling perhaps into a slope and staying there. One of the things I think we all identified with is it's the coping mechanism, and the inability to cope is what causes depression. Because we're all going to go through up and down shit. There's going to be valleys, peaks and valleys. It's that inability to cope. So when I have my youth and we're talking about stuff like, yeah, okay, I got angry, but I'm not going to go to a school and shoot up the place, right? So we're teaching coping skills. Okay, you went through this. How did you cope with it? You came and spoke to your coach. You came and spoke to your science teacher. You found somebody, a caring adult somewhere, or we watched a movie and we digest that movie together. It's the individuals who don't have, I believe, once again, going from me, that don't have that outlet, that whenever they're going through whatever it is, oh, I don't like myself, I don't like my body, I don't like whatever it is that they're going through that's causing, I can't wake up today, I don't want to bathe, whatever it is, it's that individual who doesn't have that group, that adult, that mentor, those individuals that are in their surroundings, they stay in that rut. And that rut is the worst place to be because you don't have anyone who's saying, yeah, I can identify with that. Here's what I did. Here's how I can help. Here's my suggestion. I thank you for coming to me. It's actually normal to feel that way. So it's not just saying, and I agree with Shruti, it's not just jumping on the basketball team, but I know that through basketball, I've helped way more people with their parental issues, no food in the fridge, one pair of shoes, all the issues that come from someone who didn't be on a team and literally stayed in their yard and didn't have no one to ever turn to because there was just no one. Because it's going to hit. We're all going to get hit, no matter what the hit is, whether it's a feeling, whether it's lack of, whatever, wherever it's coming from. This whole word depression is so broad, it can come in a million forms. There's not one form. There's not one duppy out there called depression. There's a million forms of it. The challenge is, what are our resources and how do we function through this? Because it's when you can't function through it is when that person becomes that person who literally, like I said, the eating, the not sleeping, the substance use, the not bathing, the not wanting to be in public, the I hate myself. Then it turns into either, if it's not self-harm, it could be the harm of others. All the things that pile up because there is no outlet whatsoever. I couldn't even write a poem about it. It just stays so internal. And that's when it becomes so scary that perhaps it may not even be reversed because it's been so long. It's not even a moment of depression. It becomes a lifestyle. And then it becomes generational, maybe even. And that just person is just the way they see the world because that's just what it is mentality. Whereas, no, things can change. There can be a new chapter to their lives.
I think I want to be clear that you're an anomaly in a sense, because I definitely know that there's a lot of sports groups that do not focus on those things. I also want to know, do you do like body image? Because boys are not talking about body image. Boys are not talking about, do I feel, or am I eating less because I want to be the same size as the sports team, or I want to get on the back. Like, are you having these conversations with your young men in your sports teams? Because I know you both coach. Are you being specific in it? Not
Yeah.
like if it comes up, are you
No, no,
being
no.
specific in
We
your
have to.
approach?
We have to
Yeah.
because it entails our training. It entails our physical training that we go through. So we have to.
The
And
body
let it,
image? So these boys are saying, you're talking about body image, so these boys are saying, I don't like I feel fat, or I feel ugly, or I feel like this is what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily just talking in regards to the sports stuff. I'm talking about to the internal, external.
So what
Correct.
we've done is we remove the body shaming, first of all. So if we're in the gym and there
Mm-hmm.
happens to be a guy who doesn't have, like even myself, my shape is not what it used to be 20, 25 years ago, but I'm identifying, I'm tackling that on myself and shooting everybody even addressed that with me. We're like, yeah, you know what? There's a guy who trains with us and he said, Phil, really? Phil, give yourself three solid weeks. Just and it was encouraging. It wasn't a look on Phil belly. Whoa. No, it was, come on, Phil, man. Phil, you can do better. And it was a supportive. Now with the athletes, same thing. We're going to come a time where we're going to be in change rooms. Okay. There may be some guys who choose to shower or some guys who choose to towel off. But at some point in time, yes, we all have to realize that there are different bodies and we would have those conversations. So the number one rule is we burn out body shaming because body shaming alone can make someone never want to come back to the gym at all.
Yeah, but Kerry, guys are more open to saying, yo, Phil, you got fat. Guys are more open to saying, yo, you got fat. And I'm going to say, yeah, I did. And I'm going to work it off. Guys are open to that.
Young
So,
people, I'm talking. Yeah,
yes.
going through puberty, I'm talking more so about, not necessarily teenagers, because teenagers also have gotten their perspective already kind of ingrained, especially if they've been doing sports from young till teens. But I'm saying like an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old just coming into a sport and struggling, and not, are you being very intentional by having these conversations or having these times where you're like you address if you know what I mean, like if somebody's saying something not so nice. I for males, I want you to tell me as a woman, because women are going to be a little bit more sensitive than men in regards to it. So I just want to know, like, is that what you guys are seeing? Is that what you're doing, or is that what you're intentionally wanting to do as you move forward?
Kelly, you want to say something?
Hey, this is your question.
All
So
right.
I,
So,
yeah.
I mean, definitely we do that. But there's also another thing. By virtue of being a part of this team, this group, it happens naturally. A teammate is going to come to you and say, don't worry about that. I was like this. I was like that. And 2 weeks working with coach, you're going to get
Yeah.
better. Don't worry about it. By virtue of being there, it comes. Another thing that we, sports in particular, provides, it's problem solving.
So
One, you might be the captain of a team, and you have to, as even at age 14, 15, you're the captain. You have to lead, control all of these personalities. It helps. Another thing, you as a child, Phil, you were privy to whatever you were privy to growing up. Coming on the team now, you're not the best, you're not the fastest, you're not the most liked. You have to understand that, listen, I'm going to have to sit on the bench, get better, then I get what I want. It's not just you're going to walk in the team and take over. So you learn timing and patience and, perseverance, all of these things. So being a part of these groups definitely help. You can't just sit back and it goes for adults too, because you have adults who have low self-esteem, and as soon as they become a part of a group or a team that shows them love, it's out of the park for them.
And
Okay.
I won't give a long answer to this, Kerry, but I sit on the board of the organization, and it's in our curriculum. So just to state that, I put the two things out there, the website there, and as well as the Caribbean League, and that's how I met Shruti, actually being part of the Caribbean League in Jamaica. We don't just coach men; we go all the way down to children as well. We've got women, we've got young girls in the program as well, and one of the key things we make sure is within our curriculum, not just in our basketball delivery. There's so much more things outside the perimeters of basketball, which is why I'm so passionate about what we do, because we're here changing lives. It's not just basketball; it's big, it's beyond basketball. So
That's what
like the phrase in hip hop says, "It's bigger than hip hop. It's bigger than basketball."
that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
It's there.
Thank
It's
you.
there.
Khalil, I know you have to
And
go.
when y'all come to Jamaica, y'all will see the vibe that's happening down there. It's bigger than basketball.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Khalil, I know you said you have to leave soon, so I just wanted you to touch upon this question and then give us a little bit of self-care tips and tools. That guy, Deli says, please, can you define economic depression and how it affects well-being of people generally? So clearly you could take that and then you can give us some self-care tips before you head out.
Okay. So the question is, can you tell us a bit about economic depression?
And how it
Yes.
affects well-being of people in general.
100%. So when I think about economics, I think about, the systems and the structures and, the laws and policies that's really happening and governing our society. So I would say, as a person of color, a black male, there's a lot of stereotypes that we face. There's a lot of prejudice. There's a lot of injustice. There's a lot of discrimination. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of systemic racism. So I feel we have literally the world against us, and all these things contribute to stressors, which can lead to depression. So I think economic depression is when the factors and the things that you go through in life, right, is really affecting you and causing you a lot of stress. So that's how I would say economic depression is, right? The depression that comes from systemic structures.
And what are some of your self-help too? Because you said a lot of things we have to take care, be proactive instead of reactive. So
Right.
what are some things that you would suggest before you leave, being proactive instead of reactive?
For sure. So my goal is to get 1% better every single day. And I like to use this analogy of pouring into your cup first, right? And I think everyone should pour in their cup first so they can pour into others, right? Hurt people, and people who love themselves are going to love others, right? So I think it's important for you to invest in yourself. You are the greatest investment. And think about how you can take care of your spiritual, mental, physical, emotional well-being. I'm all about holistic healing, right? So I say the best thing that I do is a morning routine. I believe that the first 20 minutes of your day dictates your whole day. So if you wake up and you just get out of bed and you go do what you need to do, you're gonna cause yourself a lot of stress. Imagine when you're rushing, you're trying to together, you wake up late. It's just a whole lot. So you want to make sure that you're setting up yourself for success so you can feel motivated, uplifted, and inspired. So I create a morning routine. And this is how it starts off. I'm a big person of faith, right? So I believe in praying, meditating, and reading my scriptures. This is something that's going to help inspire me and, help me build my relationship with God, or some people say the higher power. Next thing that I like to do is I like to read. I believe information changes situations, and applied knowledge is power. So I want to take information and know how I can apply and get results. And I believe every leader is a reader. So you got to read books. You got to know, right? Because the price of being ignorant is just way too expensive. And I'm not trying to pay that price, right? I also believe in meditation. So deep breathing exercises. This is how, your body regulates itself, regulates emotions, and you get grounded. We're too all over the place. We need to center ourselves and get balanced before we start our day. I do visualization activities. This is where I close my mind. I close my eyes and I imagine who I want to become, the things that I want to do, the things that I want to achieve. And this gives me hope for the future that, hey, tomorrow can be a better day, right? And I'm moving closer to where I want to be. I love to do exercises, so I'm big into fitness. Like they said, they're into basketball. I grew up playing basketball. I have medals upon medals when it comes to basketball. And because of those habits that I had in fitness, all my years of playing and playing seriously, it translated into me exercising. So getting my heart pumping, doing cardio, getting my blood flowing is super important. So I make sure that I do that in the morning. I also journal. So sometimes, we're in our mind, we're in our head, and there's no outlet. We talked about the keyword outlet, right? So journaling is a way to me put my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions on paper, right? And give me the opportunity to just, look at and reflect. And maybe there's things that I want to change, or maybe I just want to write about the things that I'm grateful for, or maybe I just want to do that self-reflection. And I think that's really good. It's really good to be in solitude and be self-aware of who you are, your purpose, what you want to achieve. After journaling, I like to check my goals. What do I need to do for the rest of the day? And prioritize myself, right? I think sometimes we're busy doing nothing, and you want to be productive. You want to be intentional. You want to be deliberate about what you want to do. I like to clean my space, make sure my bed is made. You know what I'm saying? I have things, in place so I can, make sure I know where to find things. And then what else would I say that I do? And then I start my day, right? So I start my day on a high note, high level, high energy. And I realize it's a game changer. If I do that every single day, I talked about 1% better. If I do that every single day, by the end of the year, I'm 365% better than I was the year before. So, this is all part of personal growth and development and self-care. And I realize when I face stressful or traumatic or trials or tribulations or problems, guess what? I'm more resilient because I'm equipped, right? I'm equipped with the things that are making me happy, making me feel good. And I'm able to think logically and be able to handle those situations effectively in the right state of mind. So that's what I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to tackle that? Dummy before frequency says there is many ways to say the cat walked across the street. Mentorship comes. Mentorship comes in different forms. Okay. What do you guys think about that? Mentorship comes in different forms.
I wouldn't dispute that. Absolutely. My life is very different. I'm at a stage in my life where I'm simple. I don't want what anybody else wants. So I use the term simplicity. I know a lot of people may, I want this and I want that, and it's great. Have your goals. I used to have a vision board. I still have one. But in the same sense, what keeps me grounded is knowing that I'm only going to control what I can control. Right? I can't control. Kerry knows this. At one point, I felt like I was going to change the whole city. I was going to change the whole neighborhood. I wanted to bear all the burdens of the community on my back. And I flipped that. I said, no, Phil, make yourself the best version of you. And then others will watch and say, hey, what are you doing? Versus me trying to be the peacock of the neighborhood and trying to change and say, everybody, you're wrong, you're this, you're that. I stopped calling out. I used to be licking out on police forces and licking out on school boards and all these things. And it was stressful. It was hurtful. It was, and when you didn't see the changes you were looking for, it put me into a rut. And so I said, no, Phil, do the best, make me the best version of me. And along the way, touch people individually and the things that you're doing. I protect this very much, this brain, this heart. So all my chakras, you're not going to have anybody throw me off. If I go off, it's bigger than me. But in the same sense, I know that this is the challenge of tonight's conversation, because it comes from that nature or nurture question, right? Is it something that depression happens because it is an onset, or is it something that we welcome? And welcome's the wrong word, but it's something that we host almost, right? When it does happen, how do we cope to get through it, to get rid of it? I'm very big on the actions and the accountable roles that we can play, but we can't do it by ourselves. And that's the issue that I'm coming at when I say what I'm saying. If one person can fix it by themselves, like many other aspects of life, it would have been done. Finances, body image, you name it. All the things that if we could fix by ourselves, we would have fixed by ourselves. So it does take a team, an approach, and that's what I come in from. I'm there for the people them. Kerry, you can leave my information for people. That mentorship side, that coaching side. My brother, you didn't put your plugs in there, so make sure you plug yourself because you got a book, right? People should be buying that book. People should know where to follow you. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Who's in that circle right? And you're speaking from experience. So you're an insider.
I
I'm
will
speaking from,
definitely plug, I will definitely attach when I put it back, repost it. I'll put all you guys' tags on it so people can know where to reach you. And don't
absolutely.
forget that I have at the end of the month,
Yeah.
every last Thursday of the month, you are welcome to come on and talk about your Black business and talk about your business. So your faces will be seen again.
So Shooty, take it away, man. Give it to the people then. What are you doing? Talk to them.
All right, you asked about financial stress. That was
So
what.
it was more about what do you do for self-care
Okay,
and
so
how to handle your
okay.
stressors and your mental health.
All right, I'm a also like Phil. I want to think I'm a simple guy, right? But for me, I live my life with no regrets whatsoever. Um, I am constantly self-analyzing and assessing, and after I do that, whatever decision I make, I live with it. I'm fully aware that we are all perfectly imperfect, so we're gonna make mistakes. Someone is gonna fail you. So what? They did what they did. Try to fix the situation and move on. If we can work it out and continue, fine. If you can't, I'll move on. But I have no regrets in my life, right? I do whatever I do from the heart. I'm fully aware of what I'm doing. I'm fully aware of what I'm saying, and then I just keep it moving. That's just it for me.
So what do you do for self-care?
Oh, I
Actions.
I I go to the beach, swim. I my nephews, my family, my nieces. I love people, so I try to surround myself with good, positive vibes. You know, if I have a situation, I run it by Phil, I run it by someone. Hey, what do you think? All right, cool, thank you. Keep it moving. Watch some good movies. No, not too much of those killing movies, the depressing stuff. Yeah, not too much of that. Right? Eat. I can cook. I cook a lot. You know, have some nice food. Just relax. Play some basketball. Get a good sweating. Come home. Have a nice shower and that's it. So
That's your self-care. Okay, Phil. All right. Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate it. I want you guys to definitely, we're going to keep the conversations going. I think I will do another segment of this because I think that it's definitely needed and we definitely need to keep the conversations going. And I think what we have to really think upon too when it comes to mental health and Black men's mental health is what you were saying, Phil. You have an awesome support team. Khalil, you sound like you have an awesome support team around you as well as you, Shuti. But what I think we have to start doing more of is offering those wonderful supports that we have, helping them to do it more for others as well. Because I think we like to keep it, in our circle, keep it in our being, but then there's so many out there that need it. Like I definitely encourage mentors in these organizations that are seeking Black mentors. And please, Black men, if you are going to sign up to be a mentor, please do it on a genuine sense of self and heart. Because if you start something and then don't finish and don't really engage, not really wanting to do it for the right reasons, remember that you are harming someone else mental health. And we don't want to be traumas to other people. So please utilize your circles and encourage them to be mentors, to join programs. Big Brothers of Peel, Big Brothers of Toronto is always looking for Black men to be mentors. And we have to come up with a way where it doesn't necessarily have to be. Now we're in a virtual world. It doesn't necessarily have to be in person. If we know that we can give those resources as well, let's figure out a way how we can connect youth with if it's not just in person. So my call to action as we leave this as discussion and as we go into many more of these discussions is Black men in your circles that you say that you have such great positive role models and supports. Please encourage them. Please connect them to all these programs out there that are seeking Black men mentors or volunteers or support systems. Okay, that's my call to duty. Yes, there will be part two and probably part three coming up as well. And I thank you all. If all of you can just leave our viewers with one thing one gem that you dropped so many gems today, but one that's writing on your chest, please drop it, and then we will wrap it up. And I will thank you to please let me know if you can join again, and I will definitely set it up.
I'm
Who
gonna drop
wants
my
to go
gem.
first?
My gem is the current chapter you're in right now. It's just a chapter. It's not your whole life story.
Oh, my gem is people are most important. So love people, love yourselves.
And my gem is the title of my book, Change Starts in the Mind.
Love
Plug, plug,
it,
plug,
love
plug, plug.
it.
I like that. I like that. Good plug.
As I wrap up tonight, I say again, my name is Kerry Wilson, and this is Convos with Kerry, and it's every Thursday at 9 p.m. And I talk about conversations that are helping the Black community, help us to talk more, help us to be better, and help us to do better. I do this for you, by you. So please continue to follow, share, like, and support. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Kerry. Good night, everyone.
Have a good
Good
night.
night, everybody.